Good evening, my name is Linda Jimenez, and today I'm presenting my persuasion speech. It's in the Monroe's motivational sequence, and this is my audience for today. You can have a seat. One event that outraged many Americans occurred on March 7, 1965, when peaceful participants in a Selma to Montgomery March for Voting Rights were met by Alabama state troopers who attacked them with nightsticks, tear gas, and whips after they refused to turn back. Selma is one of the historic events that specifically attacked African American people, and many other historical events through America has happened because people fought for rights so they can be able to go vote. Before I started college, I had a mentality that voting doesn't matter and it doesn't make a difference. Now that I'm in college, I understand why it is important to vote for primary and presidential election. I get emotional when I see injustice in the news. For example, separations of immigration families, shootings in schools, and oil spills that affect the environment. If people do not vote, those matters will be worse and other issues will be unresolved. Voting in the primary and presidential election is important because people in history struggled to exercise their voting rights. Voter turnout has not increased a lot, and if people go vote, we can have representatives that represents diversity. After I explain reasons and demonstrate the importance of voting for both elections, I hope you go vote during the primary and presidential election. Need. It is important to vote for both elections because people through history struggle to exercise their voting rights. For example, African Americans had rights to vote, and laws were in place to prevent them from voting. The article called Voting Rights Act, Major Dates in History by ACLU states, in 1940, only 3% of eligible African Americans in the South are registered to vote. Jim Crow laws like literacy tests and poll taxes were meant to keep African Americans from voting. A small number of African Americans were registered to vote during the 1940s. They had to pass unpassable literacy tests that prevented them from voting, which they did not pass. Similarly, poll taxes also prevented them from voting because poll taxes cost money and sometimes they did not have the money to be able to pay those poll taxes. Women also struggled getting voting rights. Women became eligible to vote in the 1920s. Other ethnicities groups have also struggled to have the opportunity to vote. In our century, some people cannot vote due to proper identification that is required to go vote, or are not eligible to vote due to not meeting voting requirements. It is important to go vote for both elections because voter turnout needs to increase. In 2016 presidential election in Texas, 59.39% of registered voters went out to vote. In 2012 presidential election in Texas, 58.58% registered voters went out to vote. That is a 4-year gap difference. It only increased about 1%. It's not really a big difference, and that means that only about 60% of registered voters went out to vote. On the other hand, in 2018 primary gubernatorial election in Texas, 53.01% registered voters went out to vote. In 2014 primary gubernatorial election in Texas, 33.70% registered voters went out to vote. That makes an increase of 19.31%. However, it requires to increase more. If we do not vote for both elections, we're affected by the way we live, policies that are made, and our community. In the primary election, we choose different representatives that represent our states. We can choose a representative that listens to our concerns and is trying to find a solution to problems that are going on in our states. For example, if we need a park, community concerns, environmental problems, and also we have concerns or we need changes in schools. What we can do, we can contact our elected officials by writing them a letter. We can also send them an email, or we can call them to keep up to date with the matters that are going on in our state. In Congress, for the primary election, we choose a Congress representative. Congress representatives, they work with the president into policies and issues that are going on in America, and they also represent each state. If everybody votes for both elections, our democracy can have diverse representation. We need diverse representation because everybody is different and there's different issues going on in America. Now, this chart that I have here is from the article called "Trump's Cabinet is Far from Reflecting the Racial Diversity of the United States." And here it shows the US population compared to Trump's cabinet. In the US population, there is 61.5% white in the population. Compared to Trump's cabinet, they show a representation of 86.4% of elected officials that are white representing in Trump's cabinet. Now, in the minorities, Hispanics in the population of the US is 17.6%. Now in Trump's cabinet, there's no representation of Hispanic population. In the black population in the US, there's 12.3% in the US population that are black. However, in Trump's cabinet, there's only 4.5% of elected officials that are representing the black population. Now, for the Asian population in the US, there is 5.3% Asian people in the population. However, it shows a misrepresentation in Trump's cabinet, an increase of 9.1% of Asian elected officials that are representing population of Asian. The White House lacks in diversity, and it's a problem because it will not put priority to solve issues that different races and younger people deal with. For example, immigration issues, injustice on racism, college tuition debt, and other problems. Satisfaction. If we go vote for both elections, we exercise our right to vote with no struggle and honor people that fought for us to go vote. Our voter turnout can increase, and if everybody votes, there is more chances for a representative to win either primary or presidential election that represents our beliefs, matters, and concerns. If we go vote, we can have more diversity representation that represents the people. From people voting in the primary 2018 election, Democrats gained control over the White House. This means that Democrats and Republicans, there are two different political parties that have to put their differences aside and work together as a team to solve issues that are going on in America. From the primary election of 2018, for the first time, there's a Muslim woman that is part of Congress. Several people in Florida gain rights to vote. In Texas, for the first time, there's 2 Congress elected officials that are Latinas. For the first time, a Native American woman is part of Congress. And for the first time in American history, there is an openly gay governor in Colorado. And all this happened because people went out to vote and they had their voices heard. It's important to go vote. We should all go vote for both elections because people fought for us to vote. Voting turnout rates needs to increase, and diversity representation is needed. Diversity can bring our country together and problems to light that are going on in America. You should go vote for both elections and be aware of matters that are going on. Vote for a candidate that represents your needs, beliefs, and concerns. Do not feel the pressure of choosing a political party. Make sure you vote on time. Make sure you register to vote on time. And sometimes in jobs, they do make an exception for you to go vote. Another option you have is early voting. And ways you can get involved is by voting, informing others to go vote. And you can also join an interest group that has similar interests and matters that pertains to you. Is there any questions?
No.
Thank you.